Well, hello everyone, and welcome to For the Love of Animals, a presentation of Pinellas County Animal Services and Inspiration 1110 AM. I'm your host, Len Szynski from the Pinellas County Communications Department. For the Love of Animals is a celebration of our connection and commitment to all things animal-related here in the Tampa Bay area. And during the next hour, we'll be sharing with you information about the animals we love and the services and programs provided by Pinellas County Animal Services. First up, there has been a new addition to Pinellas County Animal Services, and we're talking about staff this time, not the dogs and cats up for adoption. My guest on this portion of the program is the new Field Services Manager for Pinellas County Animal Services, Doug Brightwell. Doug, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
How are you?
I'm great.
Tennessee seems a world away from Pinellas County, Florida.
It is a world away.
Have you ever visited down here before?
Yes, I have. I've visited multiple times over the years. And
Disney World and Busch Gardens and places like that?
Well, and St. Petersburg and Tampa and Clearwater and all those places.
Well, you were up in Williamson County, Tennessee, it says here, and I know that's just a little south of Nashville.
That's correct.
I understand it. What brought you down here to Pinellas County, Florida?
I have been at Williamson County for about 2.5 years as director there, and it's a much smaller county and a much smaller facility, and found out that they were looking for the position to be filled here for Field Services Manager, and I was looking for a way to broaden my horizons and broaden my knowledge base and also relocate to a much more desirable atmosphere and a much more desirable
Tennessee
climate.
Is nice.
Tennessee is great, but I'm not a native Tennessean, and the winters get a little colder than I would like, and so I wanted a change for that.
So let me mention that again. I should have mentioned that right at the very beginning, that you were the former director for Animal Control and Adoption Center in Williamson County, Tennessee, and that's in the town of Franklin.
That is correct.
One county south of Nashville, Tennessee. So we'll focus that on our map in our brains and go from there. Now, you were saying that's a little smaller market up there. So,
yes,
how does their animal control department compare with the organization here?
The animal control department there, we had 3 animal control officers, and we took in annually about 4,000 animals, whereas here we take in significantly more animals, and we have approximately 13 animal control officers.
So you're going to be busier than maybe you ever were in your life.
Indeed,
I
am. Indeed, I am. But it's in a good way. I want to bring some positive things to this program as well.
Now, obviously, dogs and cats are dogs and cats are cats, no matter where they are in the world.
Correct.
Wouldn't you say?
Yes, they are.
Have you seen any difference between animals here?
No, the animals are the same. A lot of the human dynamic is the same.
Okay, sure.
You hear a lot of the same issues and problems and complaints there as and here, so there's a lot of similarities.
But the market is different.
Completely market, atmosphere, landscaping.
Absolutely.
Rural.
We're certainly more densely populated down here. We're surrounded by water.
Yes.
We have a subtropical climate, which means it's hot in the summertime.
Yes, it is.
And we have hurricanes.
That's going to be a new aspect.
And Pinellas County Animal Services does indeed interface with hurricane preparedness to a great degree.
Yes, sir, it does.
So have you had to change your own modus operandi to deal with these variables?
The main variable is going to be the hurricane preparation, and I'm trying to get up to speed on that now so that when and if the time does come, we'll be ready for that. Because
I know that we have 3 shelters in Pinellas County, public shelters that accept pets, dogs and cats.
Yes,
if people are evacuating to those shelters, but they have to register, and that is coordinated by Pinellas County Animal Services.
Yes, there is, and we have to deal with the folks who are special needs, where we have to actually help with the transport as well as the checking in at the shelters.
Right.
So it's a very complicated issue, and we're trying to get some of that revised and streamlined now so that we're prepared when the time does arise in the future.
We are right in the middle of hurricane season, so that time could happen unexpectedly anytime in the next couple of months. Yeah. How would you rate the team currently in place, Pinellas County Animal Services?
We've got a really good team. We've got a lot of really good, dedicated people on our team, and I'm glad about that. It makes my job and my transition easier, knowing that you've got people in place who have the knowledge and the abilities to do the job well.
And that is true. They are professionals, every single one of them. Mm-hmm. And I know the department as a whole has been going through some changes over the last several years. As you well know, we have had problems with budget cuts. Home values have plummeted over the last several years, and that has been reflected in some budget cuts of animal services. Some things that they used to do, they can't do anymore.
That's correct.
And I know the department is recovering from all of that.
And we're trying to modify our all of our systems within the building to try and do business better and provide a better quality of service with the lesser number of people and the smaller budget. And that's part of the processes we're evaluating now.
And I was going to ask you if you have any changes in mind now that you're here, now that you've gotten your feet on the ground. Do you have any changes in mind?
Not specifically yet. We're still in the study and evaluation phase of a lot of those issues to try and see how we can maximize the people and the budget we have to improve the services we're already providing and to try and take them to the next level as far as customer service.
So you don't know if you're going to be responding to complaints any differently or reprioritizing your calls?
Don't know that yet.
Okay.
We're still in the evaluation phase on that.
So that will come in the near future.
Yes, sir.
Do you have dogs and cats of your own at home?
I do. I've got a number of both.
Have you really? Yeah.
I do. They will be arriving this weekend. They're not with me now.
They haven't made the transition yet.
My children and my pets will be here this weekend.
What a weekend that will be. Who will be able to make the transition better, the children or the pets?
Children.
How old are your children?
My children are 10, 11, and 16.
Oh, they'll have a ball down here.
My dogs and cats some of them are much more elderly than that.
So it'll take them a little time to get used to Florida living.
Yes, sir.
Have you discovered the beach and the water sports and everything here yet?
Not the water sports, but I'm a regular beach goer.
Oh, are you really? Okay.
Yes. So I'm out there several times a week, which is one of my motivations.
You said you had visited down here before then, so
yes.
You were familiar with our recreational opportunities.
Absolutely. That was one of our reasons for coming here.
Yeah. Well, it's absolutely great. I mean, people come here as visitors. We get more than 5 million overnight visitors a year here in Pinellas County, and a goodly percentage of those visitors decide to stay and make it a lifestyle.
I'm one of those.
Okay, you're right. Animal Services does such a good job of interfacing with the community. Will you be doing some of that personally yourself, going out and talking to people about rabies or coyotes or that sort of thing?
Yes. What the topics are specifically, I don't know yet, but I will try to be a visible part of the department. I'll be speaking with people when they call in. I'll be accessible by email, by phone, and as we do public events, I will be a part of those public events as well.
That's great because there's some good information out there, and it's amazing to me how many people still don't know the dangers of coyotes, say. I had an email. We were talking about emails later on in the program, but I had an email today about somebody wanting Pinellas County to put up signs alerting motorists to the fact that there were coyotes in the neighborhood. I don't know what the goal of all of that was.
And I'm not sure where the purview of the signage and all that falls.
Right, yeah.
But, coyotes are a nuisance, and they're a part of the landscape, and we just have to learn to be cautious with those.
And have you discovered that we have some unique animal problems that maybe you haven't discovered back home? Maybe nobody has other than us.
I think especially with the coyotes, it's a different issue here because it's so much more populated than where I was in Tennessee. We had a lot of rural area, so the coyotes were not as big of a nuisance issue as they are in the populated areas. It's
so amazing because I think that creates its own problems. You have so many people here. They're very densely populated, the most densely populated county in Florida. And it's mostly densely populated with dogs and cats, too.
It is.
But then you throw into the mix alligators and opossums and raccoons. You throw into that mix backyard chickens.
It gets very, very complicated.
And you got a lot of yelps and yowls going on in the middle of the night. And,
Yes,
and people sometimes just can't deal with being that close to all these animals.
You're right, because not everybody's an animal lover or an appreciator of the animals.
And you can't blame the dogs and cats. It's the dog and cat owners. Some of them are not respectful of their neighbors, and they're not good owners. They're not responsible owners.
And that'll be where client and public education comes into play to try and help with that issue.
And that is so key. And I know the department does such a great job of, and some people have no idea of what they need to do. We were talking earlier with one of the people down there, and it's like, hey, you got a puppy for $7, but that puppy is going to cost you.
There's no such thing as a free dog.
That's true. There's no such thing as a low-priced animal. Well, thank you very much for being here on the program. We're going to enjoy having you. I hope the feeling is mutual that you're going to enjoy being here.
I'm looking forward to a long career.
And we wish you all the luck in the world, and would like to have you back on the radio program here as you initiate some of those changes so we can educate the public through our radio show and get people the information that they really need to know.
Would love to be here, and we'll keep you up to speed.
All right, Doug, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank my guest right now on this part of the program, Doug Brightwell, the new Field Services Manager for Pinellas County Animal Services. And we would encourage our listeners, if you have any comments or questions on anything we've talked about on this program, send us an email, animals@pinellascounty.org, and we'll share your concerns on a future edition of For the Love of Animals. You know, pets will eat anything, but some of what they eat can make them very sick or worse. Coming up after the break, Dr. Caroline from Pinellas County Animal Services talks to us about things your pets need to avoid ingesting. Stay with us. And we're back. Welcome back to For the Love of Animals, a presentation of Pinellas County Animal Services and Inspiration 1110 AM. I'm Len Szynski with the Pinellas County Communications Department. Now, last week on our Healthy Pet segment, we talked about how important a good diet is to our beloved animals. But that begs the question of what we should make sure our pets never eat. What makes a pet sick? What can be considered a deadly poison? With me today to share some advice on that subject is Dr. Caroline, Director of Veterinary Services for Pinellas County Animal Services. And Dr. Caroline, once again, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me back, Len.
So
it's
nice to
my
have
pleasure.
you here this morning. Yes, indeed. You know, we had a great conversation last week about pet food, and I didn't realize there was so much involved in selecting the right pet food for your pet. And I wanted to finish up that conversation because we did run out of time a little bit. We talked about bones, and you told me that really, if it's bones from the butcher shop, unless it's a big, huge bone, it's probably best to avoid giving that to your dog.
It is. And even those big bones from the butcher shop, if they're raw and uncooked, can spread diseases to the dogs just like they can to you or me if we eat raw meat. And the other thing is those bones are very, very hard. So if your dog chews on it too much, just like chewing on rocks or other really hard things, can cause teeth to break, which then can result in infection and having to have tooth extractions. One of the things, too, is those bones from the butcher shop, a lot of them have bone marrow left in them, and bone marrow is very, very fatty. And like we talked about last week, giving your dog things that have a lot of fat in them can be very, very upsetting to the stomach and even the pancreas and make your dog very, very sick.
Now, you mentioned raw meat on the bone, and I think, we have in our minds the fact that dogs out in the wild, they eat raw meat.
They do.
But our domestic dogs really shouldn't.
No, they really shouldn't. And raw diets have been something that's been out for a while, and there's some people that really, really push raw diets. And what I find is concerning about raw diets is the same pathogens from the meat portion. It's not as much the vegetable and fruit portion, but the raw meat portion, the same things that you and I can get, like E. coli and Cryptosporidium and Salmonella, your pet can get as well. And not only can that make your pet sick, but then your pet could expose your family to those infections too. So it really poses a risk, for the entire family. And just some people think that, oh, well, if I feed a raw diet that's been frozen, I don't have to worry about that. Well, I think if we think about that a little bit, we all know it's true. It's not safe for us to eat ground hamburger or raw chicken meat if it's just been frozen. We know that doesn't kill all of those pathogens. And so we want to make sure that for our animals that we make sure that we eliminate those sources of possible infection, keep them and us healthy.
So the rule of thumb is if it's going to be dangerous for us to eat, it's going to be twice as dangerous for the dog to ingest.
Typically, and that's a good rule of thumb. It's not always 100%, but I think if we follow that gives us some good guidance.
We are talking with Dr. Caroline, Director of Veterinary Services from Pinellas County Animal Services. And Dr. Caroline, I wanted to talk to you about foods that we ingest but are poisonous, actually, to a great extent for our animals to eat. We were talking about table scraps last week, and there are a lot of table scraps that should stay on the table.
There really are. And, like we talked about, although people shouldn't give table scraps, they're going to. So just making sure that if they're going to give them, that they give something safe and something that's small and proportionate to the size of the dog. If you have a 100-pound Mastiff, giving them, a tablespoon of people food is probably okay. But if you have a little tiny teacup Chihuahua, that's the equivalent of a whole meal. So just be cognizant of the size if you're going to go that route.
Now, I was doing some research, and I was kind of surprised. Foods like chocolate, grapes
very,
and
very
raisins,
toxic.
Avocados, holy guacamole. It
Yes.
says never to feed your dog avocados.
Right. And all of those things can be very toxic to the dog, and they usually are toxic to liver and kidneys. Chocolate can also cause issues because of the excitatory things in it to the heart and the nervous system. So we want to avoid those. As a general rule, too, any pits from fruit, so peach pit or a nectarine pit, the core of an apple, any of those things, those seeds tend to have a lot of toxins in them. So staying away from that. If we're going to give a little bit of fruit, give a little bit of the flesh of the fruit and a small piece. We don't need to overdo it.
Now, dogs will ingest a great many things that they find in their environment, and a lot of these things. Oh my goodness! So I wasn't going to go there. You had to be the one to say that. You're the veterinarian, so you're used to that kind of behavior, but I'm not. So, Dr. Caroline, please spare my feelings here. I was going to talk about other things that dogs ingest to make them sick, and I understand. First off the bat is medications.
Oh yes.
Medications and dogs really don't mix, whether it's prescription medications for people or over-the-counter medications or even pet medicines prescribed for them.
Right. And one of the most common reasons we see pets that are poisoned is ingestion of medicine. And sometimes that's by accident. You know, sometimes dogs will get up and they'll get into some pills and chew them up. But sometimes pet owners thinking that, my leg hurts a little bit, I'll take a Tylenol, will say, okay, well, I'll give one to my dog. Or I have an upset stomach, so I'm going to take, some Maalox, I'm going to give some to my dog or cat. And that's something we never want, to take anything over the counter for humans and give that to our pets without the express advice of our veterinarian, because dosages can be different, toxicities can be different. Acetaminophen is deadly in cats and can be very, very toxic in dogs, as can things like ibuprofen. And so it's always better to be on the safe side before you go into your medicine cabinet and give something to your dog or cat. Check with your veterinarian. It's better not to give something than to give something that could cause some severe organ damage or even death.
Well, we have to keep in mind that these are totally different organisms from human beings. They really are. They share a lot in common with us, but some of the differences can be deadly, as you just mentioned.
It is true.
Insecticides, fertilizers. We put a lot of things out on the lawn here in Florida, this time of year especially. We want nice green lawns, and sometimes we put a lot of chemicals out there. But dogs and cats go out and frolic and play and roll on the grass in the lawn. How does that impact their health if they roll on the grass that's just been treated with insecticide?
Well, with any fertilizer or insecticide that you use, just for your safety and that of your children, but also for your pets, make sure you read those instructions very, very carefully, because in those instructions for those products, it will tell you when that product is toxic and how long after treatment you need to stay off of that area. And as long as you follow those guidelines, you should be okay. As long as you follow those directions. Ideally, if you can avoid using those kind of products at all where your pets or children are going to be, that's a great option too. But I know a lot of times with the weeds and the lawn pests that we do have to apply something. So make sure you adhere to those guidelines very, very closely, and you shouldn't have any issues.
Read the label directions absolutely and follow them absolutely.
Yes.
Flea and tick products. Now, I know there are some products on the market that work wonders in keeping a dog and cat tick-free, but too much of a good thing is too much, you're going to tell me.
Right, and that's very true, and especially with some of our over-the-counter products that are out there. And I would recommend that all dogs and cats in Florida are on flea and tick protectants to make sure that they don't get those horrible parasites. But make sure, again, that you're reading that label very, very carefully. And there are some products out there that are for dogs that, if applied to a cat, can cause almost fatal seizures and result in death if too much is used. So don't just assume because it's safe for a dog, it's safe for a cat. Those products are very, very specific to your pet's weight, so make sure you have an accurate weight on your pet, and also make sure you're using something with the right species. They usually have a little picture of a dog or cat on the box. Make sure you're playing the dog one to a dog and a cat one to a cat.
Oh my goodness.
And if you follow those, and again, just like you'd use with any fertilizer or insecticide product, if you follow those directions exactly, you shouldn't have any issues with your pets.
So once again, read the label, put on your glasses, and read that label thoroughly.
It's so important.
Yeah. We mentioned exercise in one of the previous programs that you were on, and throwing a stick for the dog to retrieve and bring back is great exercise, but I understand you want to make sure it's not an azalea branch.
Oh, yes. We want to avoid azaleas, and we want to avoid oleanders as well, two plants that are very, very common in Florida, because both of those can be toxic to your pet too. So just being cognizant of what you're using with your pet, going around your yard and figuring out what plants do you have present, and are any of those potentially toxic to pets. Things like lilies are very toxic to cats. Sago palms can be very toxic to both species. Some of the toxicities can range from a mild skin irritation to full-out death, and a wide variety in between. So it's always important to identify what you have in your yard, and then a great way to figure out if it's toxic for your pet is do a Google search of those different plant types types, and you can figure out, is there anything that's at risk for my pet? Do I need to fence it off, section it off, or potentially remove it for the yard?
And what should we do if we suspect a pet has gotten into something that's going to be poisonous or simply make them sick?
Well, then that's definitely something where you need to contact your veterinarian. And either if it happens during normal business hours, your regular veterinarian. Murphy's Law is it often happens after hours or on the weekend. We have a number of really great emergency clinics with 24-hour care and veterinarians on duty in Pinellas County. So getting your pet there so they can evaluate it. I've treated a lot of pets for poisons and toxicities, and taking care of it quickly and early is so much better than waiting until your pet is really, really sick and there's just not as much that we can do to get them back to healthy.
Sounds like this is going to be a topic for a future conversation, how to pet-proof your house and yard. We'll talk about that on an upcoming edition of the program here.
Sounds great, Len. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to thank my guest on this segment of For the Love of Animals, Dr. Caroline, Director of Veterinary Services for Pinellas County Animal Services. Remember, if you have a question for our vet, simply email it to us at animals@pinellascounty.org, and we'll have the answer for you on an upcoming edition of For the Love of Animals. Well, coming up after the break, we'll find out some information about the pets we love and some of the important programs provided by Pinellas County Animal Services. You stay with us. Welcome back to For the Love of Animals. I'm Len Szynski from the Pinellas County Communications Department. Volunteers are important to animal services, to both the staff and the animals, as people from the community give their time to perform some of the everyday tasks that are so important in the care and treatment of animals. And with me today is one volunteer who spends a lot of time integrating the world of Pinellas County Animal Services with the world of social media. She is Elizabeth Olson, and she's in charge of the Pinellas County Animal Services Facebook page. Elizabeth, hello.
Hi.
How are you, and welcome to the program this morning.
I'm doing fine, thank you.
You know, we were talking before we got on the air here just a little while ago, and you have a tremendous job communicating to the general public via Facebook.
Yeah, it's really a wonderful tool for us to get out there to the public and let them know what's going on with us and take their concerns in and address lost animals and events and just everything that, we can communicate well with them by Facebook.
Well, first of all, how long have you been doing this? How long have you been a volunteer with Animal Services?
I started in November of 2009,
okay.
and I started the Facebook page almost right after that because they didn't have one, and I work in digital media and I do Facebook pages anyway. So I said, let me get this going because you're, not on board. We need to get it going.
Well, what got you involved with Animal Services in the first place? I'd assume it was a love of animals.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, I had volunteered at a couple other shelters originally in the area because they were closer to me. I live in Palm Harbor. And then one day for work, I was in the area and I said, let me just stop in there. I've never been in there before. And so I went in there and just mesmerized me. And
Sure.
I said, okay, there's a lot of animals here that need help. And being a county organization, they don't have quite the resources that the private organizations do. And so I said, they needed more volunteers. So I started volunteering there.
And you are incredible. It's not how many days that you volunteer at Animal Services. It's in fact you have this gig 24/7. Wherever you are, whenever you're awake, you're on Facebook helping to post messages about Animal Services.
Yeah, it is. It's from because animals are lost all day long, and you want to make sure they're reunited with their owners. So as soon as I see something, I put it up there, and I just want to be out there. Plus, we do something which no other shelter does, which is our closing time video. And so every night at 5:30, I get that sent to me, or 5 or so, and then as soon as I can from work, I get that up there, and then it's just then our rescues change every day. So then at night, I'm usually working on that. So it's a full-time job of just trying to help all the animals and make sure everything's up to date.
And what is in the closing time video?
It's awesome. It's basically video of all of our dogs and a little bit about each dog and their serial number. So if you find something you like, you can be there first thing in the morning and pick up the dog. And it's unusual because no one else has that. And you go to Pet Finder, we try to keep it up to date. It's just hard because, especially in animal services, there's a lot of adoptions some days, and next thing you know, Pet Finder is a little bit behind. Where this way, we take the video, and every morning, if you see the one you been dreaming about, you can be there at 9 a.m. and pick them up.
And I know you can't wait for any length of time. If you see a cute dog, you've got a line out the door of people wanting to take a look at that cute dog in person.
Yeah.
And this allows you the opportunity to be timely, to be
Right.
current, to be there when the dog's there.
Absolutely, especially the smaller dogs that go really fast, and they're a little more rare in the shelter. So when we have a little Shih Tzu in there, you see it there, you better be there at 9 a.m.
Well, that is so great because absolutely the mission of Animal Services is to try to get these dogs forever homes, get them hooked up with new owners. And it's so great that Facebook, I mean, that's the way people communicate with one another in the 21st century. How many followers did you tell me you have on Facebook right now?
Almost 3,800.
That is incredible.
Yeah, it is great because the sharing and posting the lost animals, people share. I've had one time up to 400 shares on one post.
And besides the videos and the dogs up for adoption, what other information gets posted to Facebook?
All of our events, we have adoption events and then special events. Like last Sunday, we had one where we were open on Sunday, which we never are. Basically, I promote low-cost spay and neuter clinics, and our partners, like the Humane Society, has just been wonderful. They've been helping us with dogs, and also they have a low-cost spay and neuter as well as Spot in St. Pete. It's another place where you can go. So I promote those things to help the community and the other puppies, and just basically all the information on the important topics we have,
Now,
training.
People post messages themselves to your Facebook page.
Yeah, and yes, they do. They'll tell me that a dog's lost, or there's a cat over here that's loose, and I have to deal with all kinds of stuff. I'm like a little branch of enforcement, whether I want to be or not. And so that, and then we have also the training. We put training videos up there. We work with a couple trainers, and they'll send me links, and I'll repost that. And another thing that's really great is I started an album called I Was Adopted at PCAS and Look at Me Now. So I put up there, hey, send in your pictures of your dog at your house. And it's wonderful because they send in pictures of them like dogs laying on the couch and snuggled in the bed with the kids. And they went from being in a cage to that. And it's really an uplifting folder.
And I know that's something that I think we're going to get involved in a little bit more here on For the Love of Animals. So many happy adoption stories out there, and we certainly want to share them with our listeners. And you've got so many on your Facebook page that you're sharing with your Facebook friends.
Absolutely. We have them there every day, and I'll post one, and everyone sees it. Like, they'll put it on there, and I'll repost it, so all the 3,700 people can also see it, and everyone likes it. Then that brings more people to post it. So that's another thing. At night when they post it, I have to download it and repost it in that album because it doesn't automatically go there.
Sure, yeah.
So and then when I repost it, then everyone can see the adoption stories.
And we want to make the announcement that you'll be reposting some of the For the Love of Animal programs.
Absolutely.
People can
put
either
the links up there.
If you miss it here on Inspiration 11:10 a.m. on Saturday morning, you can catch it on the Animal Services Facebook page on Monday morning.
Yep. And whenever it's sent to me, it'll be up there within a few hours.
And so how do people find you on Facebook?
It's just Pinellas County Animal Services.
So Facebook / Pinellas County Animal Services, whatever it is, okay.
Right.
And, man, that'll connect you with a lot of good information about dogs and cats and animals that want to go home with you. Are you able to measure an increase in adoptions that you attribute to the Facebook information?
Oh, I don't know about the back end measurements because I'm not involved in that as much. But I know for a fact we'll put them up there, and someone will say, I've been seeing the dog on closing time video for 3 weeks. I can't stand it. I'm going to go get him.
Oh, my goodness.
And that's happened a lot.
Yeah.
Or they'll see the pictures we post. Saturday, I try to go take pictures, and then other people take pictures. We have wonderful, Jim McCook is a great photographer. He sends us in pictures, and I post those in I do albums by month. So whoever sends them in that takes some of our dogs, I put them up for the month. But people will see them and go, I'm going right down there tomorrow. So without a doubt, it helps. But I think almost the most important thing is it helps reunite dogs with their owners a lot. And because that saves Animal Services time and money, and the customer or the patient, the public, it saves them money because you don't have to go in and claim your dog, and everybody's helping as a community to reunite them with their dog.
And that's such an important factor. I mean, people, in the neighborhood, they'll put pictures of their lost pet on telephone poles, but this is a 21st century way of getting that information out to the neighborhood and to the community. Lost dog, if you've seen this dog, give me a call.
Absolutely.
And you're saying that works.
Oh, it works great. It's every time it happens, it just makes me really, really happy.
So you could kind of cut Animal Services out of the picture. It's just go direct to the source.
That would be nice, but if no dogs were ever lost. But unfortunately, they're still going to get picked up after the 4th of July. We had a big group of picked up. It always happens.
Yeah.
Because the fireworks scare the dogs and they go running off. But yeah, so it does. I had a big bunch of postings to do the day after that as well. But most of them are reunited. So
we are talking with Elizabeth Olson. She is a volunteer in charge of the Pinellas County Animal Services Facebook page. And Elizabeth, are there any plans to expand into some of the other social media conduits that we have available to us?
Well, we have a Twitter account, but so far I haven't really done that much with that. I work with digital media anyway, and we just did a survey, and Facebook is the #1 place people go. So, if someone wants to volunteer and do the Twitter, do the Twitter page, that's fine too. We, can always use more help.
Sure. And as once again, as the internet communications expand, as a government agency, we certainly want to take advantage of every opportunity, every conduit to get this information out to the public in a timely manner. When you're talking about live animals, being current and timely is what it's all about. You told me earlier that you also do a lot of other work with animal services besides just the Facebook. You get up from your laptop occasionally and go out and interact with the animals on occasion. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I just basically do the dog walking, and I will, like I said, on Saturdays I'll go take a lot of photos, and that's probably, sometimes when I go it's 160, 170 photos, so then I go home and edit and put them all up on the page. And like I said, I do them by month. And the rescue part, we have like a group called rescue dogs that are not up for regular adoption for various reasons, possibly skin condition, maybe a little bit resource guards his food a little too much, but he's not, he's still a good dog. You just need a special group of people to either train him, or find a good home for him. So we have we have 51 rescues we work with throughout the area, like Lab Rescue and all the different ones. And so we just put them on the Facebook page. I have a whole folder for them, and we put their bios and their issues, and we just try to get them out there. So that's a constant thing as well, because they change constantly every day. Like today a beagle was picked up. I got to go fix that on the page, and then there's more coming in.
We are going to give you an award for the busiest Pinellas County government volunteer. Certainly the busiest one I've ever met. So it's really great that you're there. It's kind of a high-tech, high-touch way of doing business that is appropriate for the way people are today. Do you have animals at home? Do you have dogs and cats of your own?
I've got 5 rescues.
Have you really? See, and, this is a common theme. As I talk to these people, they can't help but take in as many as they can accommodate.
I was so proud of myself. I made it 2 months without coming home with one. I thought that was shocking, but I have a German Shepherd, a Pit Bull, and a Shih Tzu, and 2 cats.
Wow.
So, and they all sleep in the bed.
Well, on a cold winter night, it's
nice
there
and
you
go.
Where you are. Well, thank you to my guest this time around, Elizabeth Olson. She is the Facebook master and volunteer at Pinellas County Animal Services. If anyone in our broadcast audience is interested in volunteering their time at Pinellas County Animal Services, complete information is on the Animal Services website at pinellascounty.org/animal services. Just scroll down and hit volunteer or send us an email. Well, coming up after the break, we go to the mailbag to answer some questions about animal abuse when we come back. Well, we're back. Welcome back to For the Love of Animals, a presentation of Pinellas County Animal Services and Inspiration 1110 AM. I'm your host, Len Szynski, and joining me right now is John Hohenstern, Senior Animal Control Officer at Pinellas County Animal Services. And John, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Len. How are you?
First of all, always good to see you again on the show here.
Sir.
And we've got some good information to share with our audience today. We go to the mailbag, and we're talking about abuse and neglect. And here we're going to start it off. Here's an email here from somebody anonymous from Clearwater. There is a pit bull puppy with a very thin, starving appearance. Its ribs and spine are poking out through its skin. Diane here from, doesn't say where she is. She says, I would like to know why animal control cannot do anything about 2 little dogs that have been neglected and need medical care. I am told by neighbors that they have contacted you and have been told there is nothing they can do. I do not understand this at all. The 2 little dogs are not being fed. They have medical problems. Here's another one. Jenna says, I called in yesterday to report animal cruelty of a German Shepherd that was left outside in the extreme weather conditions with no shelter in a 5x5 area in front of the house. And I get these. This is just a sample. I get a lot of these, a lot of them tied into dog barking. They feel that the dog is barking because it's abused, it's hungry, it's hot, it's cold, it's whatever the condition is. You get a lot of these, yes. Dozens of these on a day-to-day basis. And yes, how do you handle all these complaints?
Well as we can.
Sure.
Yeah, because like you said, most of those complaints, they are anonymous. No one wants to,
They don't want to get involved. Absolutely,
yeah.
They don't want the neighbors to get mad at them.
They want, something to happen or whatever. Or like that one that she's heard from the neighbors that this has happened, and we're not really told everything that's going on. But I mean, we take the complaint. We get out there, a cruelty or neglect complaint is a high priority, a priority one for us. It goes to the top of everybody's board. We get out there and we see what we see. If we're told that the German Shepherd is confined in this whatever 5x5 area in the front of the yard, we get out there and we don't see a German Shepherd in the front yard. He's inside the house. Okay, well, if the complaint is the dog's left out 24/7 outside, and when we get there, he's inside the house, we think maybe it might not be all, Half of the time when these complaints come in, we ask the people if they would just talk to their neighbors.
Yeah.
And, of course, that's half the time it's no. No, it's, they don't like the way they look or whatever they've got. The police are always over there or whatever. So, we get out there and it's what we see. If we do see a violation, if the dog does look like it's in some sort of distress, it is thin, it is outside, in a fenced-in yard or whatever with, no food, water, or shelter, then, yeah, that could be a problem.
Well, are there legal parameters as far as defining what abuse is, or is it just something that when you see it?
Well, right now we're working on updating the ordinance, so there will actually be an abuse kind of add-on to. Right now, it's cruelty.
Okay.
The charge is animal cruelty or cruelty to animals or whatever. And if you forcibly leave an animal out with no food, water, or shelter, that's considered cruelty to animals. However, if you do it, when you leave the house at 8 o'clock in the morning to go to work, and the dog just spends, the day outside, and he's got a bucket of water or a bowl of water, maybe not necessarily, but if you are going to leave him out like that, he needs to have some sort of shelter, to get in out of the weather,
So is it just educating the pet owners about the proper way to treat these animals?
Yeah,
and do they respond to that?
Yeah, I'm going to say 95% of them do, that they didn't know. Well, where I'm from in Tennessee, that we can do this. But well, you're not in Tennessee anymore. It's not cool. It's not really shady here. It gets really hot. Like today, the rain can come down like a monsoon in a drop of a hat, and you need to give the dog some place to get in out of the weather. And sometimes it's just that easy.
When do you have to take an animal away from the situation?
Well, if the animal looks in such dire straits that it wouldn't last a day, then we can take it.
And I know you have encountered those situations.
Sadly, we have, and thank goodness they are, the narrow end of the wedge or whatever. But if the dog's in that bad of shape, we can take it. If not, what we do is we actually feed and water the dog in the situation that it's in, and we post every entrance to the house with a notice saying, hey, we were here at this date on this time. We consider this dog to be abandoned. If you don't get in touch with us in 24 hours, we're going to come back with the police and we'll take the dog.
And when that happens, when you come back with the police, are there legal penalties that the pet owner has to suffer through?
Well, yes, there are if we can find them. Or if they come in to reclaim the dog. I mean, sometimes it could just be, a stray dog somebody can find in a yard and, forgot about it. Who knows? But, if we can find the owners, we can charge them with cruelty.
And I know there are a lot of situations where people will just move and leave the animal in the empty house.
That happens a lot with cats. Yeah, we've had several experiences like that or whatever because, everyone thinks that a cat can just kind of take care of itself for quite a while.
All right, another email thing here from the mailbag. Talking about cats, it says, this is from Vidal from Clearwater. She says, over the past several years, Pinellas County Animal Services has removed disease-ridden, starving feral cats from a certain Clearwater address. It's probably totaled over 100 poor, abused animals, and we've had a reprieve over the past 2 weeks after the last batch was picked up. However, this lady has taken it upon herself to repopulate again. This is a person that needs help. Obviously, this email is talking about cat hoarders, animal hoarding. Now, last week on the show, you said there wasn't really a legal description of how many cats or dogs one could have in one's house, but 100, by any description, is too many.
Yeah, there isn't a specific number, but if they become a public nuisance, if just the very smell of your house is offensive to your neighbors, then there's a problem there.
And what do you do? First of all, how do you happen upon a household situation like this?
Well, usually it's the neighbors who say, you won't believe this, but, I passed this house and, looking in the windows, there were, 20 cats and the place was a mess, and, they will take the complaint. We'll go out there and we'll, knock on the door and try to make contact with, the cat owner.
Okay.
A lot of times it's kind of a mental disease.
Sure,
they
of
don't,
course.
They don't recognize the deteriorating conditions. What they're trying to do is good. Like, I'm trying to save all these cats, but in the end, they're really not being helpful to them because they're keeping them in a confined space, and the conditions are deteriorating for everybody because there's just more and more cats and more mess. They can't keep up with it. Usually when we knock on someone's house like this, we'll ask them, well, do you even know how many cats you have? And they'll say, 16 or 17. And if they allow us to start removing cats, the number usually ends up in the 50s.
Well, I was going to ask you, what is your legal authority? Can you enter the house?
Well, usually, if you talk to them, they will realize what's going on. You kind of have to build a relationship and a little trust. We're not there to hit them with the stick. We're there with a carrot to try to help them and help their situation.
Yeah.
And to help the animals.
And what sort of social help can you get for the people that obviously are suffering from some sort of a disease?
We could cross-reference, with like the Department of Children and Families or whatever. But it's really up to the individual if they're if they don't want the help.
And in this case, they're likely, without getting help, they're likely to have history repeat itself, and before you know it,
we've got some people that do that. We'll go in
repeat offenders.
We'll remove 50 cats, and they'll swear that it'll never happen again. And we'll check up on them from time to time, and the numbers keep growing, and we'll have to say, well, it's time to get rid of some more cats.
Oh my goodness, it's a big job. We have another email here from Gail from Seminole, and she says apparently her pet has died recently. It says her dog Annabelle just passed away.
Sorry for your
And
loss.
she says, do you take donations of open bags of food, Artemis Adult, a very good food, she says, heart-healthy low-sodium treats, Advantix Plus, 3 kinds of prescription heart meds. Do you do that? Do you take
not open food?
Okay.
No. But our shelter partners, the SPCA and the Humane Society, they run food pantries that they run for people who can't no longer afford to feed their own pets, and I'm sure they would be glad to take the donation.
Last email here before we run out of time from Jennifer, and this is a good one. She says she was at the Ulmerton Road Largo facility recently, and she just wanted to let somebody know that the people there were great. She was taken care of in a very timely manner. The place was packed, she says, but everyone was helpful and friendly. I'm sure you don't get too many of these, but people there deserve praise, and we don't get a lot of compliments.
Yeah, and they do, or whatever. This past Saturday, I worked the 9 to 1 shift there, and everybody was in there, and the place was packed. It was crowded, and everybody was very understanding, and we were just telling them, look, we'll get to you as quickly as we can. There were reclaims going on, and adoptions, and all kinds of craziness. It was and everybody, for the most part, it is great.
And we like to see that agency busy. Absolutely.
Yeah, we want to get those animals their forever homes. Yes.
All right, John, thank you very much. Well, that brings us to the end of our program. I want to thank our guest this time around, John Hohenstern, Senior Animal Control Officer with Pinellas County Animal Services. And you have been listening to For the Love of Animals, presented by Pinellas County Animal Services and Inspiration 1110 a.m. Be sure to be with us next Saturday, 11 a.m. to noon, right here on Inspiration 1110 a.m. for another episode of For the Love of Animals. And if you have any questions or comments on anything we've talked about on the program, just send us an email at animals@pinellascounty.com. PinellasCounty.org, or give us a call at area code 727-582-2600. For more information on Pinellas County Animal Services, including photos of the dogs and cats up for adoption this week, go to our website, PinellasCounty.org/animal services. Once again, thanks for listening. I'm Len Szynski with the Pinellas County Communications Department. Join us next time for the love of animals.